Alright, yo, basement dweller here. This is gonna be like my first video or whatever. I usually work night shifts and I can't sleep right now, so might as well do something. Anyway, so today I'd like to talk about a tangent that I'm very interested in. I'm currently very interested in the idea of, like, internet not existing and stuff, and I haven't done a massive amount of research. I'm not a terribly smart guy. I just like to, paint a picture of like what the world would kind of look like. I've watched a lot of YouTube about this, which doesn't count as research, by the way. So don't take anything I say as gospel, because that will make me mad. Anyway, um, so if we did not have the internet, that would honestly be more likely, because things like the military ARPANET and the National Science Foundation technology and packet switching all had to combine perfectly, and then it had to be released to the public. Honestly, it would have been more likely that the US government had been, like, paranoid or whatever and just said, nah, man, don't give it to the people. They'll, do stuff. So, our tangent timeline begins sometime in the early 90s, or perhaps late 80s, which some people, at least according to a YouTube video I watched, which, like I said, doesn't really count as research. Not that there aren't very smart people on YouTube, and that I usually try to go to people who I think are well educated. Like the video I watched that talked about this, that inspired me to do this, is like, he's a novelist. He does it for his job, so he does as much research as he can. He's like a historian, but it's still YouTube, and I'm an amateur. I'm not professional. Anyway, so basically, the idea of this timeline is we're going to say that sometime the late 80s or early 90s, the United States does not, the United States government specifically, we're going to specify the military just for fun, does not allow this technology to become like a public thing, which, that would be sad. Most of us would be sad, be sad. There's a lot of good stuff on the internet nobody in this timeline would get to enjoy. But people would most likely be more social, or if they didn't, they'd just replace the internet with other things like television or video games, which, speaking of which, I know a lot of you who are watching this, if any of you actually ever end up watching this, which that's fine if you don't. I'm not a professional. I'm not a genius. I'm not super cool. I get it. It doesn't bother me. But so a lot of people who play video games like the fact that you're interconnected with other people that you don't even have to know, and that's a big part of why they played it. And so it's possible that a lot of these people who go online to play video games like this would have never gotten roped into it if the idea of connection wasn't there. And I would say those people might have a little bit healthier lifestyles, but basically there would be a lot less video gamers. So pretty much gaming would be mostly restricted to, like, either families trying to have fun, like with their kids or whatever, and other stuff like, pro gamers, or, like, I say pro gamers, that really wouldn't be a career choice unless you were like a video game tester or a video game developer or something like that. But, like, the kind of people who in our timeline would have become pro gamers, or at least those of them who weren't and didn't become interested in the video games because of the internet. You also have to think about celebrities. Like, how many of those people started to become popular because of the internet? Like, for the sake of our alternate timeline, we're gonna say that most of the people, like, who are currently big things, like Harry Styles, Ed Sheeran, uh, Olivia Rodrigo, Camila Cabello, those types of people, which I'll admit I haven't done much research. Sorry. maybe if I post another video, I'll do some more research on them, which I might go into deeper depth of this, tangent, this idea, in another video later. But, we're gonna assume that those people would still be there. So, in this alternate world without the internet, there's just a lot of weird stuff. Like, there's no ordering stuff online. So, believe it or not, you might buy things on a phone. Now, I know you're gonna say, but basement dweller. Bro, my dude, my guy. Don't you need the internet to do that? Well, that's the imaginary person that I made up, who's too dumb to think things through for more than 5 seconds, who's a plot device that I used, and most of you are probably a lot smarter than that. In fact, probably all of you are. I will tell you. Way back in the olden golden days, like when you ordered stuff from either a catalog, you generally would like fill out the catalog and send the details over to there, and then you would pay for the package when it got there. But towards the end, at least according to my older brother, who was alive during those times, which, like I said, I'm not a heavy researcher, so please feel free to critique my work, although please don't be too mean. I'll cry. Anyway, so you might have sent potentially a credit card number or some sort of information so that they can get it to you, and then when it gets there, you would either pay for it, or if you gave your credit card number over the phone, which I would never recommend, but or maybe a debit card, I use a debit card, but, doesn't matter too much, same idea, but, keep doing this, I don't know why. So a lot of people who wanted their life to be easier, which there are definitely a lot of people like that in our timeline, which, I might go into further depth on why I think there's more than one timeline within our universe later, if anyone's interested. But, a lot of people who like things easier, which the story of the last couple hundred years has been mankind trying to reach a state where things get easier, things are quicker, things are more complex, it's easier to communicate, and I think the modern internet is a culmination of that, at least in our timeline, In this alternate timeline where the internet either doesn't exist or it's used by the internet, which I think we agreed that it was restricted to the US government, so it does exist, just not for the main public. That's what you would do if you wanted to do something quickly. You would call someone on a phone, and whether it was takeout and you called them and you were like, "Hey, what's up, my bruh, my boy, my dude, my guy, can I get some pizza?" They'll be like, "Alright, you want delivery or come pick it up?" And if you said delivery pickup, obviously you'd pay when you get there. But if it was something like one of those advertisements that it left a number for you to call if you were interested in the product, you called it, they'd be like, "Alright, can we get your credit card number?" You'd be like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. As you can tell, I'm a very smart individual. So, that's kind of what you would do. And a lot of people are going to be mad at me for dragging out this. You don't know crap, my boy. You don't know that stuff. You haven't done any real research, which I haven't really. Man, I've said that several times. I've said, take this with a grain of salt. Please. I've done minimal research. I'm really just posting this because I enjoy the subject. And I think anyone else who enjoys the subject will be interested in looking that stuff up. Can watch it, to get a different person's perspective on it. And so, another thing involving phones in this timeline, which I heard this from another YouTube video. No, it wasn't another YouTube video, it was the same YouTube video. Anyway, the same YouTube video, this other historian dude who studies media history for his job, he knows stuff like about the internet and stuff, which, like I said, YouTube doesn't qualify as research unless you are certain of the veracity of the source. I wouldn't consider it research because I did it in my leisure time. I didn't go out of my way to look for it. I didn't go onto any government sites or whatever, which, that's how it goes. So, it's possible that if you wanted to exchange money with the bank, that you would use prepaid phone minutes to communicate with your bank. Hey, I want to take this money out of there. Be like, all right, because if you're like me and you prefer hiding away in your basement apartment, which my apartment is in a basement, I do pay for it. It's not like I'm living in my mother's basement or anything. That's why my name is Basement Dweller. I thought it was pretty funny. Um, so, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, so if you're like me and you like hiding in your apartment or basement, or both in my case, then, that's what you would probably do if you don't want to go to the bank. Just say, hey, it'll eat, skeet. That might be like the equivalent of PayPal. It wouldn't be the same thing, but if you wanted to exchange money with someone, you might just exchange prepaid minutes. I don't know how that works. I don't know the details of it. I haven't done much research. I'm not an expert in the subject. I'm nowhere near an expert in the subject. I don't know anything about the subject really, other than that, hey, it exists. And this happens in a lot of developing countries that have cell phones but not the internet. So it's kind of reasonable to assume that a similar thing would happen in other countries if the internet wasn't an option with modern levels of technology. So there would be two ways you can pay for stuff with your phone. Research probably would have been a little bit slower if the internet didn't exist outright. But for our timeline, we're assuming that government institutions, which in my vision would include some universities or scientific universities for research, because those are pretty important, which I don't know if they necessarily count as government. That's kind of what I was thinking, and I'm sorry if people are like, oh, he's adding stuff because he feels like it. Yeah, well, deal with it. Sorry. So so basically, um, research in this theoretical alternate timeline, where people who do research can share information relatively rapidly with each other, at least in the United States, might mean that for other things, we would be at the same level of, or perhaps slightly advanced, because of the fact that we put the energy and research time into something other than internet-related studies, which that's less likely than just that we're slightly behind or we're at the same level. But it's certainly possible that we'd be a little bit ahead in some other areas. But I think technology in general be in a similar state, except for, obviously, we wouldn't have like online consoles, like stuff like my Xbox X or S over there. I don't know if you can see it. It's the white box, which I'm sure most of you know what an Xbox S looks like. But I'm not certain. You wouldn't have stuff like you wouldn't have the Nintendo Switch Online service, which maybe if they didn't have that, maybe they would release some sort of like classic games gallery on like various different cards, or maybe it would even be just like a code that you could enter into your device, and then in the device's like uh, files, or I don't know how technology works, bro. I know how to use it. That's about it. That's the extent of my knowledge. In the device, it might come with like pre-locked games that are available if you enter a certain code. And then if you enter in those codes, then it'll say, oh, you can play these games now. And you'd have to pay for the code or something. Maybe they could even turn that into a subscription service where you have to get a new code every so often, like every month. I don't know if they'd be willing to go that far. I'm not sure if the online service would exist at all. Or like, with Xbox Game Pass, same idea. If they did something similar, it would probably either be like a set of discs that you could get or whatever. And or like a same idea, the code, which these new devices, they are insane, which not so much the Nintendo Switch. I love the Nintendo Switch. It has its limitations, but like especially with things like the PS5, like my PS5 and the Xbox S. Stuff like that, that is insane. Kudos to the people who designed them. Not a sponsor, just wanted to say you guys are geniuses and you deserve all the praise in the world. Um, Not all the praise, but you get the idea. Um, and interestingly, if the internet didn't exist, I wouldn't have an Xbox S, which obviously they wouldn't exist, so I wouldn't obviously, so that makes me sound stupid. But even if something similar did exist, um, one it would have to be a disk drive, and that wouldn't be the case. My my older brother gave me my Xbox S because he's a freaking amazing human being, and he upgraded to the X, and he was like, "You want this?" And I was like, "Heck yeah, thank you, sir, my brother." Anyway, so he gave it to me because of that. So if he had just bought like a disk drive version or the X right away, I wouldn't have a Xbox. I also wouldn't have my Xbox 360 because I didn't get that until after it had become like retro or whatever. I ordered it from a website. It's called DK Oldies, in case you're curious. Also not sponsored. Bro, I have negative one subscribers. I'm not getting any sponsors. Um, anyway, anyway, right. So, what were we talking about? Oh yeah, we were talking about my life, and all of you were probably getting bored. Anyway, sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Anyway, um, so let's take a little bit of a deeper look at video games. We'd probably have a lot more games with online, local co-op, like in the same room. Basically, you would never be gaming with someone you didn't know, unless you were like at a party and they had a weird setup or whatever with like two consoles, 4 players each or whatever. But there wouldn't be this opportunity to meet new people on the internet just by doing what you love. Which, I mean, for sure, like we said earlier, probably there would be a lot less users, which totally makes sense. Someone's here. Just kidding. Anyway, what was I talking about? I got distracted. Squirrel, 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 squirrel. Anyway, so yeah, we'd probably see a lot more local co-op games, or if the games like Dead Island 2 and Dead Island still didn't have like a offline multiplayer, they would just be single player. Just be like, oh yeah, Dead Island 2, that new single player zombie game, Which I don't know if you have Dead Island 2. I love Dead Island 2. I don't know if I'm gonna get like kerflomped because I'm mentioning video games, which I'm not using their footage. Shouldn't be a problem, but you never know. I do this. It's gonna look like I have a lot of chin, which I don't. I can stand up. See, that's something I can do. That is a skill set I possess. I have the ability to stand up. Anyway, sorry for being distracting. So continuing on our tangent, we'd have probably a lot more like different portable game consoles too, like handheld stuff that would be the equivalent of mobile games, which they would actually be actual video games. So there would probably be less of them. Less people would probably use them too. But yeah. Here's an interesting idea. It's from the same YouTube video. I give all credit for this video to Alternate History Hub. Like, kudos to him. Amazing. I just wanted to shout him out. Not that he cares about me, but, that's not his problem. I'm some random dude who's not popular at all, but, he's cool. There's also, I also watched, I think it was Monsieur Z's take on it, which he's also a fantastic alternate history YouTuber. If you haven't checked out Alternate History Hub or Monsieur Z, they're both terrific YouTubers. Highly recommend. There's also, I was in the middle of watching it actually, which inspired me to make this video. Thought Spark did a video on it. That's literally just, what if the internet never, because it's capitalized, existed. Kudos to him as well. I shouldn't get any credit for this video. I just watched their videos and did the same thing. So, I would assume, and this is based on their ideas too, that, I got this from watching their videos, that we would probably have SD card games that could be plugged into phones that were specifically designed with them in mind, or like micro SDs. And if it didn't happen with gaming, it'd probably happen with music. Honestly, it would probably happen with both. But there would be this massive alternate market of like SD games. And then think about the last time that the internet didn't really define how phones looked, which the only reason the iPhone was able to randomly get everyone to start doing touchscreen stuff because it's way easier to scroll the internet. So assuming there was no internet, Apple still launched the iPhone, they would quite possibly have gone broke because that's an expensive PDA and its design wouldn't really make sense because there would be no internet to support the system. Most button phones and stuff like that would be dominant. So even if there were touchscreen phones, they'd be pretty niche. Kind of like video games, unfortunately, which would make me personally sad. I would still play them, I think. I don't know. But I would be a lot different person. For the internet, for neat memes, I was still pretty disorganized up here, but I tended, I'm not making this up. Like when I was 10, I tried to sound smart all the time. I seldom tried to be funny. I tried to make it sound like I was smarter than everyone else, which I hope I don't do that now. I might. I don't know. I was a big reader before I had much internet access, which I don't really read anymore. It's just something I'd like to change, but So I would probably still be a major reader, I imagine I would still would have worked at Taco Bell, whether or not I would have left, I don't know, which I'm currently working at Walmart now, working night shifts. I would probably still have gotten that gig if I did quit, because I didn't need the internet to do that. But it would be a very weird reality for me, because I would pretty much just hang out with my brother. I would have met almost no one online. I would have obviously known none of my favorite YouTubers because they wouldn't exist, especially a certain man from Florida who makes very funny videos that I love. I love you, Gray Still Plays. I would die to protect you. I would give you my liver if you needed it because your alcoholism took you too far. And assuming we matched. Yeah, amazing. If you like stupid game videos, that's him. I say stupid. I think they're funny. There are a lot of people who would watch him play a video game and go, "What on earth is he doing?" And that's why I enjoy them. But so, my question is, what would your life be like if you had never had the internet? Please comment in as full detail as you are willing, because I'd like to read that kind of stuff. Oh, wait. One last note. Video rental stores would probably still be a thing. Now imagine this. You roll up to a video rental store, right? Maybe even a Blockbuster, right? You roll in, you be like, "Hey, can I grab a flick?" They'd be like, "Yeah." Grab it, bring it over here, the whole shebang. Imagine picking up a tiny little carton with an SD card movie in it. Well, and then you watch that on your phone. Or maybe you'd pick up a CD for a CD player, which I don't imagine that CDs would go out as quickly. But those like little movie like TV show Game Boy cartridges or whatever they were from like the late 90s and stuff, portable movie players from like the late 90s, early 2000s, that kind of stuff, would still be pretty big, which is cool. I hope there would be Bluetooth. I don't know. I hate wired earbuds. Anyway, thanks everyone who watches this. I love you dearly. You are a wonderful person. And bye-bye.